car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Little roller up along first, behind the bench. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
See you in Pittsburgh. Can't wait.
Fucking Buckner, the game. You believe in miracles? Yes.
All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going to go out of bounds.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Caught it. Dwight Clark.
You're tuned into Game On with Josh Silverberg.
Game on!
Talking all things sports. It's
Game on! Yeah, game on!
Game On, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. That means it is Friday, which also means that Game On is here with us on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining myself this evening. And, of course, the great and powerful Speedy Petey is next to me. Yes, I am in the Atcho WWSRN studio this week. I figured, you know what? Errol's not here. I'll just sneak on over, eat some food while I'm here, hang out. I would have a couple of drinks, but he definitely does not have that in his house. That is for sure. So, I mean, that's just a fact. We got a great show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we have Greg Kaplan joining us at 6:30. He is the co-host of Blue Shirt Breakaway podcast. So he's going to join us, talk all things New York Rangers and their debacle in Detroit last night. What a disgrace of a performance that was. It was awful. We're going to get into a lot of topics. Got a lot going on, of course. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the Patrick Kane news. We're just waiting for that shoe to drop. It's probably not going to happen. You're hearing different things, and we'll talk to Greg about it at 6:30. You're getting different topics, different things. You're hearing different thoughts. Can it happen at 6:30? Can it happen at 6:30? Can it happen on Sunday? Can it happen on Thursday? There's a lot of cap stuff that has to be done. Obviously, when the Jake Decision and the Vitaly Krasov news broke yesterday that they were not going to dress, that was basically they were keeping them out for reasons. That's kind of when you knew something was up in that matter. So we're going to have Greg on at 6:30. He's going to be the first guest ever here on Game On, which is also a guy. Thanks, Speedy, for that, of course. And you can check out my show and other wonderful shows here as well on WWSRN. Check us out on worldwidesportsradio.com. And check us out on our free app. Just type in WWSRN on your iPhone, Android. It used to be Worldwide Sports, Speedy. For the Android, you would have to type in Worldwide Sports, but now you just type in WWSRN on the Android, and it pops right up. So I found out a couple of weeks ago because people were telling me I can't find the app. Where is it? I don't know where. Why can't I locate it? And also, by the way, because I'm not going to play around with my phone tonight. Speedy is going to chime in and read the comment. Not all the comments. He's going to read the comments that are, actual plausible with the show. We're not going to have, a Jeff Errol snug three-way dance going like we did last week with the comments. Yeah. I mean, the comments just went off the rails last week, and Speedy heard it in my tone. I was getting really angry because that's not what it's about. It's about this show. It's about talking about the topics. We're talking about sports here, and then we're getting personal with each other. That's not what the comment section is about. Y'all got to understand that. I understand you have beef. That's fine. Deal with it on another show. Deal with it on the Loudmouths. Deal with it on something like that. Not on this platform. I don't want that. Not at all. And I like Jeff. I like Snug. I like Errol. The beef's got to, we got to can that. That's got to be squashed. But that doesn't concern me. It's not my business. I'm not involved in that. Jeff and Snug supposedly like me, so I guess I'll accept those compliments. That's for sure. And we know Speedy's a massive favorite here at WWSRN. And I always say this, I know Errol always says this too. He is WWSRN. You got to understand the stuff that this man does behind the scenes. I picked him up. He went to see his family this week. So I picked him up from the ferry today. Did him a favor, picked him up from the ferry, and I bought him dinner later. And we're trying to get back to Errol's house. And then he says to me, yeah, none of this way looks familiar at all. And it turns out when I did the correct turn, the one that I missed with us, I did it coming back here because I only live like 10 minutes from Errol. That saved me like 6 or 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that was brilliant. That was where the screw up happened. 100%. That is where the screw up massively happened. I will take full responsibility for that. And everything and so much more. We're going to get into a little bit of the Jets and the Derek Carr situation. Now the Raiders are supposedly out on Aaron Rodgers. They said they're going to work with what they have. So likely means you're going to probably see the Raiders draft a quarterback if they can. And you're going to see Raider fans, a lot of Jarrett Stidham. So you're going to have to get used to that. You're going to have fun with that. Because Mark Davis does not want to pay the money. He's already paying, I think, 2 other head coaches right now. That's why he's not firing Josh McDaniels. The Tennessee Titans are making all these different moves and everything like that. But again, Real quick before we get to all that in the Lido spot, you can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch. And if you want to see wonderful content, go on Snapchat when Arrow posts things and ask Speedy amazing questions. They're fantastic. It's great content, especially when you're just like hanging out and have nothing better to do. Just watch it. It's more so just it's Speedy. The questions are obviously the most random things possible. We know this. It's more so just Speedy's reactions. And Speedy, no matter what the question is, it could be a yes or no question. And Speedy will attest to this because I've worked with Speedy for a while now. I always give Speedy a yes or no question. Speedy never, I think, has ever once, in all the years I've known him for a couple years, has never given me a yes or no answer. There's always an explanation and an analytical answer to everything first before the yes or no happens. And then I'll snap at him after and I say, just give me a yes or no. Like I could say to him, is Derek Carr going to be the quarterback of the Jets? And he won't say so. He'll go, I definitely think that's probably what's going to happen. I could see that going on. And then he'll say it does, and then he'll give me reasons why it makes sense. But all I'm asking for is just a yes or no. That's all it is.
By the way, your mother is in the comment section saying Caleb is watching.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, Caleb is at my parents' house tonight. They wanted an overnight watch, and Melissa and I were happy to oblige with that. He's starting to talk more. And a really quick story, he's starting to talk a lot more. And today, I'm driving him to my parents in the car. Now when something goes wrong, he says, uh-oh. And when something goes wrong, something goes awry, he says, uh-oh. He dropped his toy. We were 20 minutes away from my parents' house. He dropped his toy in the car seat, in between the car seat and the door. And I'm on the LA. I'm not pulling over to get a toy. Like, that's not what we're doing. And he's going in the car. He went for 20 minutes straight. He's going, uh-oh. And then one time he goes, Dad, uh-oh. And I said, my exact response to him was, you win some, you lose some. You lost it there. You didn't win that one. So definitely talking a lot more than he is. That's for sure. But like I said, we have a great show lined up. We're excited to have Greg on. But right now, let's get to our leader spot right now, Speedy, and let's get to it. And of course, the elephant in the room is the New York Rangers and this Patrick Kane situation. I feel so professional being in the studio today. It's crazy because usually when I'm in my house, I have my studio set up. You've seen it before. I'm on my bar stool. I'm doing it that way. But this Patrick Kane news, right? A couple weeks back, the Rangers got Vladimir Tarasenko. And we're going to talk more with Greg about this. And Speedy, I think it was actually you that I texted as well. I said, I think they're going to probably get Mott and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's no way. And then I remember I was talking to Errol on my car ride home. And Errol said to me, I won't bet you they get Patrick Kane. This was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I said, no way. So that's done. It's over. Kane was upset, which I've never seen a person act the way somebody has after somebody else got traded to another team. I never, ever saw somebody act the way Kane did. He was upset about it. He said, his exact quote, if I'm not mistaken, was, and I could butcher it. I think he said, well, it's not the happiest I've ever been seeing a trade.
Yeah.
Which to me, I found that to be fascinating. I found that to be interesting because clearly Patrick Kane has his sights set on one team, and that's the New York Rangers, because he gets to play with one of his best buddies in Artemi Panarin, which that's why Tarasenko wanted to play on the Rangers, because Panarin's there. It seems like Panarin's a very popular person, right? I mean, maybe one day he could get Alex Ovechkin here. I doubt it because they both have different political beliefs as well, but, we're not going to get into that. The point is, the New York Rangers, it is a very big possibility, and we saw the Boston Bruins trade. Speedy, what were the details of the trade they got with Washington? It was one of the guys I wanted was for the Rangers.
Garnet Hathaway.
Hathaway was the guy I wanted.
Yeah,
for the Rangers.
A physical winger, and it was Dmitry Orlov, was a veteran defenseman, got sent to the Bruins yesterday. Yeah, and you're right. Hathaway is that kind of grinding winger that you definitely.
They were never going to trade in the division with the Rangers, though.
Yeah,
that was never going to happen, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. But that's a great move for the Boston Bruins. That just completely lengthens the line. And the thing about Hathaway is, the key word there that Speedy said, he's putting up better numbers than he usually does. One, but two, he's a physical forward. That's the biggest thing with him. Orlov is going to fit on probably their third pair and everything like that. That's where he'll go. But Hathaway's the big get for them because the Boston Bruins are already a very physical team as it is, and now you add that depth to their third, or he's probably going to be on the third line, I would think. because he's earned those minutes this year. He's done well with Washington. And I look at where the Boston Bruins are right now. The Bruins are the favorites. They have the clear Pats Vezina Trophy winner in Linus Hallmark. And then you have Jeremy Swayman, who's the backup, is having a fantastic season. This is like, I want to say this was like 2015 with the Rangers, where the Rangers had Lundqvist and Talbot just having unbelievably great years. And then they had, who was the third? Oh my God, who was
Magnus Hellberg? I think.
No. It was the third goalie. I forget what his name was. He was a no-name guy. If you want to look it up, after 2015 goalies, he had red hair. He was a horrible goalie, but he always played only the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, that was Magnus Hellberg.
No, it was not. No,
yes, it was.
No,
I'm looking at 2015-16 Rangers goalie stats.
No, you got to do 2014-2015.
Oh, 2014-2015.
Yeah, you got to do 2014-2015. When you do that, and there was.
Oh yeah, here it is. Mackenzie Skapsky.
Yes, Mackenzie Skapsky would always play. I think he only played 2 games that year.
He played 2 games, a 0.5 goals against average,
both against
78%.
Both against the Buffalo Sabres, and he beat the Sabres every single time. And it was the funniest thing on the planet because it was always. They had a graphic once on when NBC Sports was called the Versus Network, if you remember that, and they were comparing all 3 goals together: Lundqvist, Skapsky, and Talbot, and they were ridiculous numbers. And it was just the funniest thing. That's how the Boston Bruins are with Ullmark and Swayman. It's literally become that. And then you getting Hathaway. Orlov is a nice piece. He's not what he was a couple of years ago. He's there for depth. He's not what he was 4 or 5 years ago, Dmitry Orlov. He was a very good defenseman 4 or 5 years ago. But getting Hathaway there was a huge move. And to me, the thing that I'm looking at is with the New York Rangers right now. And they have not played well the last. They've lost 3 straight. They lost a tough one to Calgary, which they came back again. The problem with the Rangers lately, and I said this to Speedy on the car ride when I was driving him here, is the problem is they're down early every game, and they're playing catch up, and that's not something that the Rangers can afford to do because the thing is they have the offensive firepower to do it, but you can't constantly be down like they were against Edmonton. Like. I knew they were going to come back and win that game against Edmonton because Edmonton has no defense, but also they were just firing shot after shot in that third period against Campbell. And the thing is, they did it against Carolina too, where they just slaughtered Carolina in the third period. Now, getting Patrick Kane is certainly not going to help them defensively. Patrick Kane is, when you look at the numbers, and I have them right here in front of me. And I know people are going to say, oh, you can't go by. He's on Chicago. I understand this minus 23 this year is awful. Everything like that. It is. It's not good. The thing about Kane is, and Speedy could probably test this, he's never been the greatest defender as a forward. He's never been that guy. Never. Tarasenko is the same issue. Tarasenko is very sketchy defensively. That's always been the problem with Tarasenko. So you're bringing both of those guys into this team. Now, what this does is this will lengthen the lineup, right? You're going to have Zibanejad. I would imagine Gallant, although I can never read the guy because he changes lines every 5 seconds. You're going to have Zibanejad, Kreider, and Tarasenko. Then you would have Panarin, Trocheck, Kane. You have the kid line of Hito, Kakko, Lafreniere. And then what you do is you move VC down to the 4th line with Mott and Goodrow, which to me, that's probably on paper the best offensive team in the NHL when you look at it on paper. There's no denying that. That 4th line, as Speedy has said it, and I agreed with it when I was texting him, that's a 4th line that could be a 3rd line on other teams. The issue has not been the scoring has been the issue the last 2 games, but the problem is it's not been lack of effort. It's the shots they're getting it, but they're outscored. They outshot Detroit yesterday. They completely outshot. I think it was 50-22 against Winnipeg. Yeah. It was a joke. And then the issue is the goaltending has been very lackluster. And I'm going to bring this up to Greg. And I know Greg's probably going to say it depends on the playoffs with Shesterkin. He's got a month to get ready. I've always said this. Hockey is like baseball. it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So you got to just make sure that your guys are ready. Halak was so out of sorts yesterday, but the team just didn't look. The team looked flat. Whether you want to make the excuse of the whole Kane rumors, if you want to use that excuse, fine. Nobody on the active roster is getting traded, so you really can't. Like Gallant used that as an excuse today. Of course, it's a distraction. You can't use as a distraction. You can't. And I'm going to bring up an interesting question, and I'm not going to say it now. I want to throw it at Greg at 6:30. I asked it to you, Speedy, in the car, and you said that was a very interesting question. You actually had a tough time answering it. It was about the Rangers, and you'll know what the question is when I ask it to Greg later. I think you're thinking about it now. You remember it now, and you even said that's a great question because you didn't think about that.
No.
And I'm going to bring this up to Greg. So the issue's been. Shesterkin has an 895, I think, save percentage in the last few weeks, which is not good. And then, what are the comments? I see you smirking over there. What are they saying?
Snug says, which Jets team will win a championship first? New York
or Winnipeg? I'll hang up and listen. It's like Mike Francesa. And then, the second problem's been the defense. Mostly it's been the Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba pairing. Trouba has, I don't care what the numbers say, Trouba's not been good this year. He's been awful. He came to the Rangers as a top 10 defenseman. His skill set has completely regressed from what he was with Winnipeg. Completely regressed in my eyes. Keandre Miller was having a very good beginning of the year. He was taking that next step. He was great. And he struggled the last few games. Lindgren and Fox have been good. The problem is, and even Mikkola and Schneider have been very good too. That's the problem, right? Everybody wants the Rangers to break up Trouba and Miller. Here's the problem. You break those guys up, you're messing up the other two pairs on defense who have been good. The issue is, again, is every goal that's happened in the last few games, it's like Miller and Trouba have been on the ice. And it's constantly been the same issue where Trouba, don't kill the messenger here. There's been plays where Jacob Trouba is looking like Nick Holden at times, where he's just standing there. He's just standing there. And he's not doing anything. He's in the wrong spot. To me, that's an issue. We'll get more into that with Greg after. Second part of the leadoff spot, the New York Jets. Well, Aaron Rodgers has come out of his darkness. He lasted 3 days there. And by the way, and I've said this on my show, I think the people that mock him for this, by the way, shame on you. Some people do. Some people go, this is how they cope. It's spiritual to him. I find nothing wrong with it. Personally, if I was in darkness for 3 or 4 days, I wouldn't have to know what time it is. I could think to myself, I would everything like that, everything in that nature. To me, I would find that to be a very, very positive experience in my eyes. People are going to call me crazy now. They probably will. But my biggest thing is this with Aaron Rodgers. So he does ayahuasca. Who cares? Who cares? Is he bothering anybody? Is he affecting anybody? Is he hurting anyone? He's not. He's doing a spiritual thing. People are coping with certain things. He's not a stupid person, Aaron Rodgers. He had one of the highest scores in the history of the Wonderlic test for the draft. He's been the host of Jeopardy. He's not a stupid person. He really isn't. And by the way, when he makes fun of Rappaport and Schefter on the McAfee show, when he says, my inner circle, they don't know anything about it because I have a tight one, he's probably right. Because guess what? Rappaport reported he was going to the darkness the Monday after the Super Bowl. He didn't go in until Friday. So in the end, it's who knows what at this point about Rodgers. As far as Derek Carr goes, listen, if the New York Jets feel that Derek Carr is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback with him on the roster, then just sign the guy. If you feel that Derek Carr you're going to say, you could win us a Super Bowl and you could be a Hall of Fame quarterback with us, then what are we waiting on? What are we doing? Like, I'm looking at at Carr's numbers right now, and people, give him a lot of flack every year, except for 2017 when by the way, he was having a really good year. Got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, or was that 2016?
2016, it was the end of the season he got hurt, and then 2017 he didn't start good because of that. He was still recovering.
So when you look at that, he's thrown for near 4,000 in 2014. His rookie 3270, 2015 3987, 3937, 3496 when he was hurt still, 4049, 4054, 4103, 4804, nearly threw for 5,000 passing yards. And then this past year, 3,500. He has a career completion percentage. All right, here it is. Where is it? I got to find it. See, this is the thing. Here it is. He has a career near, if you want to round it, 65% completion percentage. That's good. That's very good. His career TD to interception ratio, it's 217 and 99. To me, everybody's going to throw the stat of he's not a warm weather quarterback, or he's not a cold weather quarterback. I mean, what? When he played the Broncos when they were really good on defense? Or when he played the Kansas City Chiefs? Like, is that what we're going to go by? I mean, what do we... And again, this is me saying this. If the New York Jets really feel like he's a Hall of Fame quarterback with them, then just sign the guy. Just sign him. Get it done. Let's start recruiting guys here. Let's get things going. That second part of the leader spot. And then my last and final part before we go to a break, Manny Machado in the news again. He is the first ever player to start a count 0-1. He didn't meet the time requirement today in the box. The umpire checked the watch, called a strike on him, and he started the count 0-1. And I find this fascinating because this is what's going to happen probably for the first month. Batters are going to have to get used to it, but even more so pitchers too. Certain guys and their one-ups are going to have to change drastically, get the ball faster to the plate. I think it's 15 seconds with nobody on base.
And then 20 seconds when they're on
When
base.
There's a guy on base. And I think they only get a minimum of 2 pickoff. I think 2 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the video today. Machado was confused. I would be too. Because I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, this is what's going to happen the first couple of weeks of the baseball season. And I understand Major League Baseball is really trying their hardest to really, cut down this time limit and stuff like that. They are. But there's got to be, it's good that they're practicing it now. I'm wondering if they're going to do it during the Baseball Classic. I don't think they will. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure Greg is here. Waiting, ready to go. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the co-host of Blue Shirt Breakaway Podcast, Greg Kaplan, is going to join me here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We'll be right back. This is Game On.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm going to keep ticking. But no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, Your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Game on! Game on!
We're back.
Juicy stuff!
You're listening to Game On with Josh Silverberg.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the second half of Game On right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Again, you can check us out on worldwidesportsradio.com and download our free app. Just type in WWSR. And, well, we have the first ever guest here on Game On.
Ooh.
So this is a big deal. Let me tell you something. I messaged him the other night. I said, I wanted to formally introduce myself. and I don't know if he heard the show earlier, which I'm kind of hoping he didn't, because that way I could throw some interesting questions at him. I don't want to give anything away to what maybe he's heard and give him some, tidbits on maybe the questions he might have heard. So I have a few questions for him. He is the co-host of Blue Shirts Breakaway Podcast. By the way, doing very well. I believe it's 31st right on the Apple Podcast list out there. I just checked it out. I could be wrong about that.
We're usually, for hockey, we're usually top 10 the day we release on Tuesday mornings. But it's Friday, been a couple days. People have released episodes before us. So it's one of those weird things where it drops you down the list unless you're releasing something every day. But yeah, I'd say usually firmly top 10.
I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, that man that you're listening to right now and you're hearing is Mr. Greg Kaplan, a big Ranger fan, just like myself and Speedy Petey. Greg, what's going on, man? Everything good?
Everything's good, man. Having a good night. No drama today, so that's awfully nice.
And not yet.
Not yet. Well, I think we're good for today. Tomorrow we'll see. But
that's what I'm thinking too, because I already told Speedy. I said, "Listen, just an FYI." I said, as long as you have a sound that has a breaking news buzzer sound or everything that's going off, just have it prepared. Because I think it was my first or second episode. I had a bit of breaking news. I forget what it was, and we didn't have anything prepared for it, so I had to stop what I was doing. It was the Kyrie Irving thing. And I threw my script on the floor.
Oh.
I had my whole script of what I was going to do on the show, and I just threw it. I said, well, that ends that. So that's the end of that debacle. But listen, Greg, we're happy to have you on, man. We're excited to talk Rangers hockey. And I know, obviously, everybody wants to hear about the elephant in the room, and we'll get to that in a second. I want to build up to that, right? We don't want to just jump the gun for that.
No, I get it. Hey, that's the beauty of radio, man. It's called the tease in the industry.
Exactly, because the problem is everybody's going to hear the first thing, and then they're going to tune out. I don't want that. I want to hear it. I want the whole interview to be played out and ready to go. First up, how are you doing? How's your family doing? Everybody good?
Everybody's good. Nothing crazy to report on my end. So that's with the Kaplan clan, it's 50-50, touch and go every day, but today, nothing but good reports from what I've understood.
I always say it. No news is good news.
Exactly.
That's how I view it. And I didn't even tell Speedy this. I was going to tell him this. Caleb got his first, during Christmas, Rangers jersey.
Ooh, who's the name on the back, though? That's the big question.
It is, because it's only I wanted Shesterkin for him. My mother-in-law is a huge Ranger fan, so there was only one person. There was only one player in his size. He's a 1-year-old. They only have Panarin. So he got Panarin, but again, I'm a Met fan too. So what I did was I saw the players he could get, and I said, you know what? Let me get him this guy, because by the time he outgrows it, I got him Scherzer, because I said by the time he outgrows it, Scherzer's not going to be on the team anymore. So it doesn't even matter. That's the point of it. Like Panarin, you know what I mean? That's how I viewed things with it. But I wanted him to have Shesterkin, but the way Shesterkin has played the last few games, maybe it might have not. Maybe that was a good idea. Maybe not to go that route.
Oh, come on!
I wanted to start with that with you because I did want to. I knew, and I told Speedy, I said I'm going to throw this at Greg right away because I knew he was going to do this because I listened to his podcast at times, and that's how I know how he's going to act like this. And listen, Speedy knows this too. I was one of the biggest against Henrik Lundqvist guys ever. I wanted to keep Talbot. I wanted all that. That's how I was.
Okay.
He knows that about me. And I said, if Shesterkin has this trajectory that he's been on, Greg, he can have a better career than Lundqvist. Now, that's asking a lot. That's asking a ton. But we've seen Shesterkin the last couple of games. I believe it's an .895 save percentage. It's not been great. We see it. He didn't meet with the media the other night. He's very hard on himself, just like Lundqvist was. But Lundqvist would talk to the media. Shesterkin finally talked to them at Terrytown the other day during practice. I mean, you look at the 2.6 goals against average, which is very unlike Igor. Are you concerned about him at this point, or are you going to say, listen, he has a month to figure this out before the playoffs start? Because let's call it like it is, Greg. The Rangers go as far as he takes them.
I couldn't be less concerned. To answer the more direct question, we're nuts if we're acting like goalies aren't allowed to have 3 tough games, and that's essentially what it's been. It's been 3 games. To say, I said this on our OT episode earlier this week. It's Ranger fans are having a really hard time adjusting from last year enjoying the greatest goalie season possibly ever to this year simply having to root for a guy who is merely top 3. It's nuts to be. Let me turn it around on your head a little bit here. Let me pose it back to you.
Okay.
Yaro Halak started the year 0-5. Looked like absolute garbage.
Yep.
Where were you on Halak at that point?
I was deeply concerned, but here's the reality. The reality was I knew the Rangers didn't have anything else because who were they going to get? Louis Domingue up? That's I said they got to roll with it.
Okay. I mean, what happened?
And he's figured it out. Now, he obviously, I can't fault him for yesterday because there was a lot of mishaps on that team yesterday.
Yep.
You can't completely fault him for that. And again, this I only bring up the Lundqvist comparison, and everybody always tells me I'm a Lundqvist hater. It's not that I was a Lundqvist hater. It was the fact that I just felt Cam Talbot carried them in that 2014-2015 season to that
Stanley Cup run
with the Stanley Cup run before
that was the Eastern Conference Finals run.
Yeah, and then Lundqvist came back, and I said Talbot earned the right to play in the playoff, and then Lundqvist came back. He did because he had a ridiculously great season.
Yeah, it's Henrik Lundqvist. Yeah, I don't know. The Ranger fans that have been harping on Igor, to me, it's much ado about nothing. It's just like I act like we've been there before with goalies. Like even Hank had some tough games. Hank, as great as he wasn't 100% perfect on every night. I'd much rather Igor, who's played only 3 times, I think, in the last 3 weeks because of the ridiculous 2-week All-Star break the Rangers had.
Yep.
Then they've had multiple back-to-backs between then where Igor's not playing every game, and then after the back-to-back, they have 3 days off. Like it's ridiculous. It's honestly kind of crazy he didn't play yesterday, in my estimation, because he's not going to play tomorrow and Sunday. And then the Rangers are off again until Wednesday, and they have another back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. So of the next 4 games, realistically, he's probably only playing 2. So it's to me a little crazy that the Rangers are going to go through this 5-game stretch where I'm of the opinion if a guy's going through it, the only way you're not going to get through it by not playing. I'm that way with every sport. If a guy's in a hitting slump, if a guy's in a shooting slump, you have to just play your way through it, work your way through it, because sitting on the bench is not going to correct the behavior. So this little stretch here that Igor's going through, to me, would be an opportunity to just get him even more time because, I'm sure like you feel, next couple weeks here, next couple months before the playoffs, the Rangers are in. It would take a historic collapse for them to fall out of the playoff picture, especially considering the teams behind them not exactly playing up to snuff. I mean, the Capitals have already called it a day on the season. The Penguins, they don't have the money to even be making additions at this point.
And for Hextall to be fired at this point in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's the Islanders, the Sabres, and the Red Wings. And one of those 3 teams is not going to be in the playoff picture by the time we get there. So the Rangers, I know we would all like them to be playing better, to have an opportunity to grab that 2 seed. It's just not that important. It really isn't.
I just want them to play the Devils. That's what I want. I want that first round matchup.
I think that's.
I know Ranger fans are scared because they don't want to lose. I think when you play a rival, people are always like, "Oh, I'm so scared to like." I'm a Met fan, so people always ask me, "Would you want to play the Yankees in the World Series?" And I'm always like, I always go to the notion of, yeah, whatever. They already beat us once, so what? If they beat us again, but if we beat them, it's awesome. It's the greatest thing ever. If the Rangers play the Devils, I mean, I'll enjoy it a lot more. You know, I know they beat us in 2014 in the conference finals, but it's still like we also beat them a couple years before that in the first round when Sean Avery was being Brodeur. Brodeur took offense to it and everything like that.
I'm not worried about. I'll worry about playoff matchups when we get a little further down the road. I just think, it seems like the Hurricanes are going to win the Metro especially if So the only thing that worries me is one of the Hurricanes or the Devils will get Timo Meier. So let's see where Timo goes, and then I'll decide who I'd rather play in the first round, I guess.
I agree. I think it's going to be the Devils too, by the way.
It would make the most sense in the world if it was, but I don't think you could rule out Carolina.
You can't because now that Pacioretty's on long-term IR, they have that cap space to now do it, and they have the prospect pack pool to do
Yeah, and they also they have the front office that they're fine thinking, all right, even if we can't sign Timo long-term, we'll take the bullet for 1 year on a 1 year, $10 million contract, and he's either going to be great for us and we're going to make another run, or we'll turn him around and get the assets back that we already gave up on him. They are one of the more forward-thinking front offices when it comes to dealing with players on very short-term contracts. So I don't think you can rule out the Hurricanes with something like Timo Meier. But listen, it should have been the Devils already. The fact that it hasn't been
when
the
Hughes
Devils
was out, I said they needed to do it. When Hughes went out, I said it's a no-brainer.
The fact that it hasn't happened yet, it at least brings up some concern, if I were a Devil fan, that it might not happen at all.
I agree. We're talking to the co-host of Blue Shirt Breakaway Podcast, Greg Kaplan, joining with us. We've seen now I'll bring up the Kane question now. It's the elephant in the room. Obviously, I mean, how can we avoid it, right? Like this. So they give Vladimir Tarasenko, right? I'll try to make a long story short. 2 weeks ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago they got Tarasenko. It was it was like a Thursday afternoon.
Yep.
Around
it was NBA trade deadline day.
Literally, it was like they heard the Rangers heard the Knicks were trying to make moves for Zach LaVine, and then the Rangers said, "Hold on now, wait a minute, we want to do something fun."
Yeah, Dolan sent a text to the group chat he has with Leon and Drury and said, "I want headlines today." And Drury was the one who reacted.
I was gonna say because Drury's the only one that meets with the media. Leon is the guy that's like he's the phantom in the garden that hangs in the rafters.
I know. That's ridiculous to me. I don't understand how NBA media is so savvy and smart. I don't know how they're letting Leon get away with not.
And he has he does the one-on-one interviews with Mike Breen on MSG, and they edit it out.
That doesn't count. That's state media. Like that's all that is.
So they got Tarasenko, which I think you and I both could agree that was a great move. They essentially didn't give up anything for them. They gave up a lower tier prospect. They gave up a 4th-round pick, which could turn to, I believe, a conditional 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, if they get out of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up Sammy Blais, which, in my opinion, I've said this. I think the only reason why Tyler Mott didn't come back was because they didn't have the salary cap space. Because I think Blais, if had a team option, and the Rangers picked up the team option, thinking, "No, he."
No, what makes it even worse is it wasn't an option. They just straight up re-signed him for 1 year.
That's what I'm saying. It made no sense, and they said they could just have Mott back for like $1 million. That's essentially what he signed with Ottawa for, and it was a joke. And they gave up one of the 1st-round picks, which again could be a lower 1st-round pick. It's the lower of the two.
Mm-hmm.
It was a no-brainer move. Right, we know he's a rental. He's not going to be here long term. Tarasenko, we get that.
And I mean it's not as fun to talk about Nico Mikkola as well in that trade, but the Rangers did address two needs in one move.
He's been the better of the two guys, in my opinion. Him and Schneider have been fantastic so far. I'm just throwing it out there. Schneider finally has a legitimate partner, and they're not going after Justin Braun. Who did they get from Colorado last year?
There's no Nemeth. There's no Braun.
I'm tired of
the
Rangers, Greg. I was tired of the Rangers trying to fill that 3rd defensive pair with a veteran, thinking that a guy like Schneider or Nils Lundqvist when he was here needed a voice. I'm like, it's not about that. Just get a good defensive guy. Stop getting these garbage veterans that can't skate or keep up the par with Schneider, because Schneider can't do what he does. Not to mention Mikkola is 6'4" and he's over 200 pounds. He's on the penalty kill doing stuff already. He's already been fantastic.
He's been great. I don't think I'd go so far to say he's been better than Tarasenko. But they've both come in and they've both filled their roles nicely. The day the trade happened, I
shocked.
It was just hard to believe they were able to get, because again, not only did they do all that, the Blues took 50% of Tarasenko's salary. Again, they addressed 2 needs in one move, and they only gave up the worst of the 2 1st-round picks that they already had. You mentioned Hunter Skinner, not even a top 10 Ranger prospect. You mentioned Sammy Blais, who had lost his lineup spot already.
He was goal with the Rangers.
Yeah, so it checked every box. And honestly, Drury did that deal and would have said, "Cool, I've done enough. I will now go back. I'll address our needs on the 4th, in the bottom 6. I'll get us some guys to fill out this lineup, and that'll be that." The day the Tarasenko trade happened, you would not have been incorrect to assume the Rangers' big swings were done. That is not, hindsight be what it is. And we are here now talking about a completely different top six winger who seems like he's coming to the New York Rangers. But Drury did the Tarasenko deal, not thinking he was getting both, thinking that he got the cheaper deal of two options he liked equally. And that's how Tarasenko ended up with the New York Rangers.
And that's it. And going back to the story I was saying with it was 2 weeks ago, we had that deal done, right?
Yep.
We had it all planned out. I remember literally, I was like, I'm a teacher, so I'm done for the day. It's 2:00. I told all my classes, so I'm sitting in my office and I just see it pop up. I'm like, oh wow, So I thought they were finished. I then texted the guy in charge here, our boss, Errol Marks here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. He's a big Islander fan. He said to me, I said, all right, the Rangers are done. And he said to me, no, they're not. I said, what are you talking about? This was 2 weeks ago. He says, and Speedy could attest to this. He goes, how much you want to bet they go get Patrick Kane? I said, there's no way. I'm telling you, you're going to find.
I know, but we don't. The thing is, you don't even have to go back 2 weeks to say the Rangers weren't going to get Patrick Kane. The Rangers.
You needed the reaction after the trade happened. I never heard a guy be that upset about somebody else getting traded to another team.
But not just that. It's just like the Rangers. If the Rangers really thought they were going to get Patrick Kane, they wouldn't have added Tyler Mott. Like, you make the Tyler Mott deal thinking you're just going to make bottom six additions to your roster between here and there. Yeah, I mean, Mott is on such a friendly enough contract, and it was Gauthier going out, where you can still make the math work if you look really hard and you get some other teams to cooperate. But you don't make the Tyler Mott deal if you think you have to open up space for Patrick Kane. You make the Tyler Mott deal because you're just trying to take more items off your checklist.
Of course. So, I thought they were going to get maybe Bjorkstrand from Arizona. I'm thinking Bonino maybe.
Yep.
Nick Bonino. That's who I went in the realm of. And then when you hear, and I brought it up on my show last week or 2 weeks ago after the Tarasenko deal happened, I never heard a guy respond the way Kane did when he said
he was angry.
He
straight
said
up that he was angry.
It's the happiest I've ever been about somebody getting traded to another team. I can tell you that. He was really upset about it. And it feels like Tarasenko, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, and I said this to Speedy, it feels like Tarasenko forced his way to the Rangers because of his no trade clause, and that's where he wanted to go because Panarin was there. I feel like Kane is doing and utilizing that same effect of, I have a no trade clause. Listen, I've given you guys 3 Stanley Cups. I've been as respectful. Pardon with the respectful part off the ice stuff we've had some issues with, with everything like that, but we're not going to dive into that today. But I've been a soldier for you guys. I helped you win 3 Stanley Cups. I'm going to go into the Hall of Fame as a Chicago Blackhawk. This is what I want. Is Kane doing? Because there's no way the Blues couldn't have gotten more for Tarasenko. He forced their hand with that. Do you feel Kane is doing that same thing?
Oh, I think
I want to play with Panarin. That's where I want to go with the Rangers.
I think Kane's doing it to a greater extent than Tarasenko did it. I think I do like the Blues wanted to do well by Tarasenko because of all the things that have happened between him and the team over the last 2 years. He brought a cup to St. Louis. He was part of that core. He was the quote unquote good soldier in the Blues organization. But I think the Blues wanted to do right by Tarasenko. He's always had an interest in playing in New York. He's really close with Artemi Panarin. And I do think it was clear that Tarasenko had a preferred destination of the Rangers.
You don't say.
but if the Rangers really said, no, we don't want Tarasenko, we're going to go somewhere else, I think Tarasenko would have accepted trades to other teams. Kane has essentially told the Blackhawks, I'm going to the Rangers or I'm getting hip surgery. So you can either get something for me from New York or accept the reality that I am going to get surgery, go under the knife, do what I have to do, and then walk as a free agent and forget about it.
Which is crazy because he's still playing at a high level.
He's played at a high level the last week.
He wasn't doing great this year. He
was having another bad season. And it does seem like the Rangers traded for Tarasenko and Kane got pissed off. And it's like, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of doing. And if this isn't enough for you, fine, so be it. I'm going under the knife. I'll see you on July 1.
I mean, you have to remember because apparently Toronto was another one. He said Toronto wasn't that big of a deal. But what does he do? He goes and plays Toronto tonight and he gets a hat trick against them. So
Tarasenko, I think the Rangers were his number one destination. It worked out that the Rangers also wanted him. But if the Rangers said no to Tarasenko, I do think he would have accepted trades to other places. Patrick Kane is only going to accept a trade to the New York Rangers.
So you don't even think like if Dallas came to something or Vegas? No.
I think he will then just if he doesn't get to go to the Rangers, if he doesn't go to the Rangers, he'll get surgery. I think those are his only two options right
And
now.
I think he's trying to give Chicago an out here where he's basically saying, listen, you guys could try to get something for me. It's better than nothing and me just walking away and not getting anything out of it. So
they're not going to get a lot from the Rangers, but something from the Rangers is better than nothing.
I've heard Zach Jones' name thrown out there. I've heard Kravtsov could be in the deal.
Those will probably be the two pieces, and then you're talking maybe a conditional pick that becomes a second if the Rangers do X, Y, and Z. I'm at a point where I'm surprised if it's a first-round pick included. Because I think Chris Drury, from what we know about him, if a deal is too good to be true, he'll say yes.
Of course.
But he's also got no problem walking away from something if he doesn't think it's right. Like,
oh yeah, he walked away from Raquel. He walked away from Raquel last year, and he wound up getting Cop instead.
There's a reason why Jack Eichel isn't a New York Ranger, and one of the reasons is Drury wasn't a fan of the package that was being asked of him.
And then even that trade deadline last year, you remember all you heard all day was Raquel, and the Rangers sounds like a perfect fit. And then they walked away, and also 2 minutes later, out of left field, Andrew Kopp is a New York Ranger, and that wasn't even rumored throughout the entire day. And it was like, where did that come from? It was a complete segue.
Yeah, no, Drury is stubborn as a bull, and it benefits the Rangers in season where he understands. Like, he doesn't think the Rangers need Patrick Kane. He will gladly take Patrick Kane if you're going to give him to it on a silver platter.
Line, Greg, becomes that fourth line.
The fourth line.
That's a third line.
Yeah, the fourth line of Mott, VC, Goodrow is better than any fourth line the Rangers have probably had since Brian Boyle was doing what Brian Boyle was doing.
Oh man, Boyle, Moore, and Dorsett. That one that got them to the final.
A thing Ryan and I talk about a lot on the show is we would just love to dream of the day the Rangers are skating their 12 best forwards on a nightly basis, and if they acquire Patrick Kane, they will be doing that. Their 12 best forwards will be the dudes on the ice every night. You'd have a top line. Mika Zibanejad will be playing with one of Tarasenko and Kane and Chris Kreider. The other one will be playing with Artemi Panarin. And it's just like your third line is the kid line or the boys to men line. That's been the best line the Rangers have had all season, most consistent line they've had. Your top nine is relentless. No team is going to be able to take even 1 second off playing the New York Rangers in the playoffs, in a must-win game, in anything. Like, if you're a Ranger opponent, who in God's name are you putting your shutdown line and shutdown D pairing against? Do you put them against Panarin, Kane, and Trocheck? Do you put them against Tarasenko, Mika, and Kreider? And those are your two options. And then whoever your 1 and 2 go against them, and then the kids come out on the third line and go helter-skelter on people after that. It's bananas. And then again, the Rangers will have their best defensive shutdown checking forward line ever with Mott, Goodrow, and VC on the fourth. It is a lineup where they will be pushing their chips so far in that anything short of a Stanley Cup final appearance will be a disappointment. But that's fine. That's what you want as a sports fan. Like, I am happy to have high expectations on my hockey team.
I got a few more questions for you, Greg, before we let you go.
Sure.
One is, I'm glad you brought that up with the Stanley Cup aspirations, because I brought up a very interesting question to Speedy. Speedy's also a huge Ranger fan, and I brought it up to him early on the car right here. And I asked him the question, and his response to me was, "Oh, that's a really good question." My question is this. If the Rangers get to obviously they're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to be in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Say hypothetically they get Kane. They lose in the first round. Does Gerard Gallant last? Because honestly, Greg, there's a certain guy out there that I would love, and I've been harping at it for the last year and a half since he was let go by another New York team, that would gladly take the role of being the head coach of the Rangers, and I think would ascend them to where the Stanley Cup aspirations are there, and that's Barry Trotz.
Well, once upon a time, when the Rangers were not playing like a good hockey team earlier this year, there was a fateful 24 hours where, as long as Barry Trotz's family said yes, I think Barry Trotz would already be the head coach of the New York Rangers. If the Rangers get bounced in the first round after trading for Tarasenko, Mikkola, Kane,
But even if they get out of the
Mott.
even the first, Greg, what if they get out in the second round? They don't even get to the conference finals with all.
Listen,
there.
We are fans of, and we follow a team where it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's not without historical evidence where they could fire a coach after winning a Stanley Cup. I think, regardless of playoff outcome, there seems to be some warming the last couple of weeks because winning solves everything.
Of course, it heals all.
But
yeah.
If you asked me this question a month ago, I would have told you, regardless of playoff outcome, Gerard Gallant was not going to be the New York Ranger head coach. I'm probably more 50-50 today. But if the Rangers get swept in round one, he's gone the next day. If they have a bad showing in round two, I think he's gone within a week. If it's a competitive but not quite beneficial Eastern Conference final again, I think he gets his walking boot. And I think the only thing that truly would guarantee Gallant coming back is a Stanley Cup sweep. That's it. That's the only thing where if that happened, if he gets to the Stanley Cup final and he sweeps a Western Conference team, then I'd say, yeah, I think he's probably coming back.
That's what I said, Speedy.
But unless that happens, I think the conversation is going to happen regardless of outcome.
Because I feel like Drury's not. I feel like Drury has this thing where he's basically telling you, "I'm giving you every ounce of pieces in this league to make this team a bona fide."
Yeah, again, just
and if you can't even get out of if you can't win the Stanley Cup final, I'm sorry.
Well, think of it from this perspective, right? So, yeah, the Rangers, not only did they move a lot of chips in and they trade a lot of assets the last 2 years to make this team as good as it is, with the cap situation coming up for the Rangers this summer, the roster is never going to be as good as it's going to be on March 4th this year. Just financially speaking, it's impossible. Kane, Tarasenko, Mikkola, the three of them, they all can't come back. You have to pay Phil Hedl. You have to pay Alexis Lafreniere. You have to pay Keandre Miller. You're going to have to pay Kakko again in 2 years. The Rangers have a lot of Ryan Lindgren's going to need a contract if you want him there.
Yep.
If you get Kane, it is the acceptance that whatever this window is, the talent on the roster will never be better or deeper than it currently is this season. So if you don't win it all with your best shot you're going to have, well, then you have to find a different coach because this one didn't get you there. That's what I think Chris Drury is going to sell James Dolan on. Because, like, if Gallant's not going to be able to do it with the absolute 100th percentile roster the Rangers are able to put out there, you think Gallant's going to be able to do it when the Rangers have to take a small step back next year?
No. And that's the problem. I feel like this is the best roster.
It will not get better than it is.
Especially if they get when you look at it on paper, you can almost meet the now that 94 team was a special team. But they're not going to – I don't know.
The Rangers – this Ranger team doesn't have Glenn – like, Glenn Anderson was awful. I don't care what anyone says.
I know.
I've gone back and watched the Eastern Conference Final and the Stanley Cup.
He was the name I was going to bring up.
Glenn Anderson was a toad, man. That guy stunk it up. The Rangers –
not going to have the depth that 94 won't even come close to the depth.
The Rangers' 12th best forward is going to be Barclay Goodrow. Like that – he's going to be their quote-unquote worst forward, a guy who's got 2 cups to his name, did a lot of great work in San Jose and Tampa Bay before coming to the Rangers, has done some nice things for the Rangers himself. That's going to be your worst forward, Barclay Goodrow? Come on. Like that, this roster is just too good. And then you take into account Igor in goal, Fox at the height of his powers, Miller at the height of his powers, Trouba coming into form, Lindgren healthy. Like
I'm so glad you brought up Trouba's name.
Well, he's the captain. He's my guy. I ride or die with Jacob Trouba.
Oh man. Okay. So this is I got 2 more for you then before we let you go. Then this is perfect. This is a perfect segue. I'm glad you didn't hear my intro. I'm glad you didn't hear my intro because I have a problem with somebody.
Okay.
I have a problem with Jacob Trouba.
Of course.
I have a massive issue with Jacob Trouba because the problem with Trouba that I've had is that, and listen, I bought his jersey a week after he got traded here.
Okay.
Haven't won it once since I bought it. That's a problem right there. It's My issue with Trouba is this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at times when I'm watching him on the ice, he's in the wrong place. He's always, whether he's losing his guy on the ice, him and Miller the last few weeks. Let's call it like it is, Greg, and you know this is true. They've been the worst pairing of the three. The problem is you can't break because Mikkola and Schneider have gelled well, and you're not going to break up Fox and Lindgren.
Why not? Why aren't you breaking up Fox and Lindgren?
Listen, I'm all for it. If they want to try it, I'm all for it. It's just Gallant won't do it. He maybe will do it once in the third period towards the end, try it out, and then goes right back to it because for some particular reason he will not break up the Fox Lindgren pairing. I can't remember him maybe I've seen him do it once or twice, but for some reason I just feel like the last few games, especially, I mean, like I'm looking at Trouba's numbers right now this year: 4 goals, 14 assists. But Greg, he's a -3.
Oh, well, first of all, let's throw plus minus.
I know you're going to say plus minus is out. I know that.
Plus minus is the dumbest stat that's existed in sports.
But
the only stat dumber than plus minus is the hold in baseball. That is the only
you were going to say whip. I thought you were going to say whip.
No, whip is a good
I like
stat.
whip.
That makes sense.
Thank
the
you.
hold in baseball
now they do whip.
The hold in baseball makes no sense. It's illogical. You don't even need to record an out in order to get a hold.
So you're good with Trouba. You're good with him.
I'm good with Trouba. He's playing hurt. We're going to find out after the season. So.
How about Miller and how he's because he had an unbelievable jump to the season, Miller, and I feel like
it's been great. I have a hard time. I have a hard time relating to fans that are like unable to appreciate that Miller feels more confident playing with Trouba and feels more comfortable to explore different parts of his game because he's playing with Trouba.
Yep,
like
I agree.
I'm not here saying Trouba has actually been a Norris caliber defender. I'm not. But if we're going to compliment Keandre Miller with one hand, I think it's important that you understand his comfort level and confidence level playing next to Jacob Trouba has allowed him to unleash parts of his game.
Yep.
So whether we're Trouba fans or not, I think there are some Trouba narratives that are extremely lazy. If I have to hear one more person talk about his contract, I
don't get into that nonsense.
Yeah, no, but
he earned that contract. When
when he signed that contract, he signs that contract before the 2019-20 season starts when COVID-19.
He was a top 10 defenseman in the league.
He signed that contract. An $8 million wasn't supposed to be the going rate for number one defenseman when he signed that contract. The cap was supposed to keep going up. Money was supposed to keep coming into the sport. There wasn't supposed to be a pandemic.
I agree.
Any contract signed before the 2019 season starts, you can't use it as an argument for why something shouldn't have happened to me. We're just supposed to be in such a different financial in terms of the NHL landscape than where we are. The salary cap's supposed to be over $90 million. The Rangers were supposed to be able to afford players over this. People are supposed to be making north of $12 million a year now. Mm-hmm. Like the world ended there for a second.
I agree.
And it's just, if you want to be angry at the contract, it's just like, all right, then go back in time and tell people that something was coming that was going to shut the league down and force people to play in a bubble. Like they would have thought you were nuts, for lack of a better term. So I hate the contract. He's had a rough year. He's played better recently. Yes. He's still probably, I mean, obviously the most important voice in the locker room. There's a reason why those guys.
Why he was picked the captain.
Yeah. They put the C on his chest.
Yeah.
Chris Drury didn't decide it. Gerard Gallant didn't decide. James Dolan didn't decide it. It was up to the players, and they slapped that C on his chest.
Yep.
I've always been dreaming, and I'm a big fan of Rob Luker on Twitter, who's big with Rangers advanced metrics, and I usually just tend to trust him in matters of this. Miller Fox just provides so much intrigue and upside that if those two were playing together, it really does feel like the sky is the limit with that. And I just think if you're trying to create more of a shut down defensive pairing, Lindgren and Trouba's games kind of go better hand in hand than Lindgren and Fox, as crazy as that is to say because of how dynamic Fox is on his own. But I don't know. I mean, if Keandre Miller feels most comfortable and feels like he'll play his best hockey next to Jacob Trouba, I'm cool with that because Miller is taking his game to a level I wasn't anticipating. Yeah, so
you're allowed to have bumps in the road. You're allowed to. It's allowed.
Are you? Because you're really critical of Igor Shesterkin. Are you sure you're allowed to have bumps in the road?
not critical of Igor. First of all, I am as big of an Igor fan as there.
I don't know. Earlier,
I am.
We have it
You
on tape.
Can you attest to that? Am I not one of the biggest Igor supporters out there? When he came into the league and I saw him his first few games, I said I already could see this guy, and I see a trajectory. And everybody called me nuts.
I know, but the first thing you said when I popped on was you were worried about Igor.
I was, because I'm not used to seeing, since he's come into the league. Now he's had spurts and moments, but I've never seen him like this, and then not me with the media. That was the part of me that I said I
couldn't even, like, if players wanted to stop talking to the media tomorrow, cool, great, that's fine. I agree
with you on that one.
But like, what was he gonna say? Like, I'm angry at myself.
And then he met with them the next day, and he said he's as hard on himself as there anybody as possible. And here's the thing. When Igor came into this league, I said the trajectory is I think he's going to be better than Henrik Lundqvist, and I still stand by that.
Okay,
I'm not lagging at it any sort of way possible. I see this guy being. We saw it last year. He outplayed Vasilevsky in that game 6 that they lost to Tampa.
Yep.
He outplayed them. He outplayed Vasilevsky in that series. And the problem was Vasilevsky made ridiculous saves, but Shesterkin outplayed him in that series. They just. Once they were up in that series 2-0, and they were winning that game, and then the power play happened, and then that just changed the whole trajectory of how that series was going to go. Listen, let me tell you,
I was just giving you a hard time. I was giving you a hard time.
A bad thing. I have never said a bad thing about Shesterkin.
I had to do it.
Listen, I poked you with Trouba, and I still, you know what I mean? So it's all fair game. But listen, the key is we're both passionate Ranger fans. We love talking about the New York Rangers.
That's right.
I want to see the success of them going forward. Before I let you go, 2 things. One, what is your I'm just going to be silly asking you this. What is your prediction Stanley Cup final and winner? And number 2, how can the fans reach you on social media and listen to your podcast?
Well, I mean, even with Kane coming, I know I've already said anything short of a Stanley Cup run is probably not acceptable for the Rangers, but I'm not going to sit here and look at you and say the Rangers are a better team than the Boston Bruins right now. It's just not going to happen.
That is the biggest Boston Bruin fan, and he told me when the Hathaway trade happened, he's like, "Oh,
not just Hathaway, Orlov too." And
you want to get Tarasenko. We're going to get grittier.
Goodness gracious. If I had to say today, I would say, if Mark Stone can get healthy before the playoffs, I like Vegas out of the West, and then I like the Bruins out of the East. And the
West is wide open. The West,
because the West stinks.
I know.
It's wide open because there's no team.
Which, by the way, I just want to throw this out there for the fans that thought that Alexander Georgiev was going to go to Colorado and be this Vezina candidate. Come on.
Yeah, but they've had a lot of injuries this year.
No, they haven't. Now McCarr's out again. He's on my fantasy team. That's how I know he's out again with another concussion issue that he's got.
Yeah, the West is just a mess. Like, my God, imagine the Oilers can actually somehow get Erik Karlsson and he still doesn't help them. Yeah, I'll go Boston, Vegas, and I think Boston wins. But listen,
you get Cassidy against his former team, though.
That's what I'm. A lot of storylines there.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Montgomery, his replacement, beats him in the Cup final. Wouldn't that be something?
It would also be interesting if it was Boston, Dallas, and Montgomery's coming back to haunt Dallas a little bit.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, the beauty of adding someone like Patrick Kane is anything can happen in a 7-game series, and all you need is a goalie to get hot to beat a really good team. And the Rangers have a goalie who can get really hot and an incredibly deep roster if they have Patrick Kane. So while the Bruins are going to be the best team in hockey when we get to the playoffs, the Rangers are going to have enough talent to beat them if the breaks go their way. And that's all. Honestly, that's all you can ask for in a season like this, because Boston is just playing out of their mind. It is ridiculous, unreal. Yeah, and then thanks for having me on. It's been fun. Who doesn't love yelling about Ranger hockey on a Friday night? You can find me on Twitter at Blue Shirts Break. You can find Ryan at Ryan Mead. Like I said,
both of you guys.
Yep, we do podcasts. We record every Monday night. Been doing that for over 350 consecutive weeks at this point. It's completely insane. Releases every Tuesday morning. We do BSBOT episodes that you can access through our Patreon, patreon.com/Blue Shirts Breakaway. And then we've been dipping our toes into doing some live stream of Ranger games through Playback. And we'll actually be doing one tomorrow afternoon for the matinee game. And you just go to playback.tv, search Blue Shirts Breakaway. We're the only guys that pop up with that name, and you can watch us have complete meltdowns when people make defensive errors that lead to goals.
Greg, thanks so much for joining us, man. Seriously, please come on anytime. We'd love to have you on again as a guest. We loved it. We had a blast. Thanks so much for taking the time and doing this. All right, man? Let's go,
Appreciate you, bud. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Good one.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Greg Kaplan, the co-host of Blue Shirts Breakaway Podcast. Well, that was awesome. Thank you, Speedy. We are way over the time. That is a fact because we have other recordings that we have to do this evening. For that, it's time for our buzzer beater. So let's get to it, Speedy. You did it even before I even finished, but thank you for that. I love that you're prepared and well-rounded on that one, Speedy. Thank you. And that is basketball is back, ladies and gentlemen, after a long I had no idea the Wizards were playing the Knicks in Washington. I wonder if the Knicks and the Rangers travel together. They're in Washington tomorrow, right? The Rangers?
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely travel together some sort of way, no? You think so?
James Dolan's random private jet that nobody knows about.
I'd probably take a bus. You could take a bus from there to Washington.
Yeah, it's too conventional for James Dolan. He couldn't possibly do that.
What about if it was to Philly? They would have to bus that.
Maybe.
What about Brooklyn? Are you flying from where are you flying from? LaGuardia to Kennedy? Like, what are you doing?
No. James Dolan has some underground subway.
Yeah.
That's just for him.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I want to thank Greg Kaplan, of course, the co-host of Blue Shirt Breakaway. We had a blast having him on for sure. I love that we got into it a little bit with the Rangers and everything. That we had agreements. We had some disagreements. Listen, he's not going to get me on an Igor Shesterkin comment. And Speedy, you know this about me. I am one of the biggest homers when it comes to Shesterkin, but I'm also very hard on Shesterkin when I said he was almost the reason they lost that Penguin series last year.
Mm-hmm.
I am. Trouba, listen, Trouba's got a C on him. That's wonderful. It's not going to deny the fact that I think Trouba is Trouba, but, hopefully he gets better. He better.
At least in the playoffs.
I mean, geez, dude. I mean, my God. I mean, you're going to stand there like Nick Holden out there? Or are you going to do something? What are we doing? I mean, come on. Maybe is that too harsh? Probably.
It might be.
Yeah, maybe.
Going to Nick Holden level. I would only.
Can you imagine if I said that to Greg? If I said he reminds you of Nick Holden, what do you think Greg would have done?
The only one
Greg
I
would have hung up.
Yeah, Greg would have left. I think the only one we can put to Nick Holden level is probably Nemeth. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally like I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We had a blast singing to the fans. This really would have been a great week for the fans to call in because the phone lines are doing great this week because I'm in the studio. But also don't forget to check out the Weekend Crunch this weekend. Tomorrow, I am actually going to be guest hosting with Errol out. I will be guest hosting with Speedy PD on that. We have a lot to talk about with Rangers, Jets talk conversation, baseball back, basketball, all this going on. That and so much more. Thanks to the fans for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate Speedy PD. As always, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me in studio. This was great. And ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for tuning into Game On here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.